As you watch the screen, your heart begins to beat faster. There's a fluttering in the pit of your stomach. Your throat is dry. Your palms damp. Suddenly a chill runs down your spine. You clutch the person next to you. You tell yourself, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. But sooner or later, it's time to go home.
Welcome to the 2025 edition of Shocktober here on Filmstrip, live in person. Well, not live if you're listening to it later, but in person and video in some places. I'm Lindsay.
I'm Jay.
I'm Ron.
And we are here to talk about one of my favorites, finally, The Monster Squad, starring Andre Gower, Robbie Kiger, Stephen Macht, Duncan Reger, Tom Noonan, Brent Shalem, Ryan Lambert, Jonathan Greaves, Mary Ellen Trainor, Tom Woodruff Jr., Michael Reed McKay, and Leonardo Cimino. And sorry if I mispronounced any of those names. Written by Shane Black and Fred Dekker and directed by Fred Dekker. Released in 1987. Certified cult classic by several people.
Including you, because
yeah.
like you teased, you've been after us to do this for like 5 years at least, I think.
I have. It's been a while. It's been a minute. And we reviewed this movie on other Friends of the Pods podcasts, but we've never done it on our own. So here we are, and I'm so excited that this is the one that I kind of get to kick off coming back from, being in rehearsals and stuff.
Exactly. And before we get a little further into Monster Squad, we have told people you were in a musical. We basically told people you're on Broadway almost.
Yeah.
So tell us your story, what happened. And I understand you have a fun story to go along with this.
Yeah, it was a really fun show. It was not Broadway. It's community theater, but I will say going from community theater in New Jersey is very serious stuff. It's real serious business. Which is great. It's the playing field is wild. It's a lot. You definitely have to bring your A game. I mean, coming from some smaller towns in Virginia up to a more populated area, it's a lot. But happy to have been cast. I was in SpongeBob the Musical. I was in the ensemble, so no named role, and I had a bunch of different parts, probably 13 costume changes. I learned to tap dance. They trusted me to do that. I don't know why, but
I mean, you didn't know how to tap dance beforehand?
I had no idea. I'd never tap danced in my life.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Thank you, YouTube. I seriously went home and just tap danced for hours in my basement, trying to learn very basic steps that most people who have taken a year of tap dance would know, but I did not. So I made it work, and it was a lot of fun. It just finished last weekend was our last show. Sunday was our last show, and on our last show, I fell off one of the stage platforms in a performance, which was luckily not many people saw because I was kind of in the back of the 27-person cast. So only 2 people in the cast saw me. I don't think many people in the audience saw me, but one of the cast members afterwards, she's so sweet. She's like 15. She was like, "Lindsay, are you okay? I saw you fall." I said, "Oh, I didn't think anyone saw that." She goes, "Well, I'm right behind you and I saw you fall." And someone goes, "Why didn't anyone offer to help you up?" I said, "Well, I kind of bounced off the stage when I fell. And I was fine, no broken bones or bruises or anything, but I did skin my knee really bad." And it was so luckily one of our stage managers is also a nurse. So she had Band-Aids in her pocket. She goes, "Well, it wouldn't be a real show if he didn't get hurt. And so,
I don't know that that's the mark you want to have for a
yeah.
show, but okay.
She put a
Well,
Band-Aid on so that my pants didn't, sear to my legs or sear to my knee, and I was back on. This was in the first number too, I should
oh, this
mention.
was early.
So,
Okay, yeah,
Great
wow.
timing.
so I had to go the rest of the show with a bloody knee, which was fine, but still, I thought I was going to make it. I thought I was going to get out of the show with 0 injuries, but I was.
Oh, well, that's a, well, we're glad to have you back. It was fun to hear your stories about that, and it's always fun to hear your stage stories. But I knew you had that one in the bag, so we had to know. But now, like you said, Monster Squad's like your jam, right? So do tell,
Yeah.
like where does this come from for you? So
So I wish I could say that I saw it as like a 5-year-old, or I saw it, well, I wouldn't have remembered it when it came out, but I wish I could say I saw it as a kid. I didn't. I was introduced to this as a 20 something, well out of college. I, had my own place. One of my friends, we were watching, beginning of spooky season, right around early October. And I had suggested watching like Hocus Pocus, which, is a staple, I
sure.
feel like, especially
Mhm.
for women of a certain age. And and they suggested Monster Squad. So I was like, I've never seen it. And I saw it and I was hooked. And now every time I watch it, it it kind of grows, in my opinion, grows with you as a person. So if you're a kid watching this, or if you were a kid when this movie came out and that's when you saw it, it resonated with you as a kid. And if you were a young adult, I feel like I still kind of resonated with the kids at that point. And then the more I watch it and the older I get, the more little things stand out. And we'll get to it as we talk a little more about the film, but it just, I don't know, there's some new thing or some new takeaway that I get every time, and it's never, it it doesn't get old for me. It's always nostalgic, even though I didn't see it when I was a kid. It's still reminiscent of that time when kids kind of had the agency to do all these
Mhm.
crazy things and go out and have their own adventures and have their own coming of age stories.
Oh, that's fair. I say like the thing that drew me to this was because I saw Lethal Weapon when it came out on rental because my brother had seen it in theaters, and then
Mhm.
I had like a movie book, and I read something. I was like, who is the people behind this movie or whatever? It was before IMDb existed, right? So Shane Black was a name I just held on to, and talk about a hell of a 1987. He co-wrote this, did script doctor work and was an actor in Predator, and then had Lethal Weapon. I mean, what a year for one guy. And he sold the Lethal Weapon script. I think it was like $1 million at the time. So it was like a big deal to get that one off the ground. I I just remember that. But I remember seeing this. It was a rental at home for me in probably like 88, 89. It was when we were really into the home rental stuff. Watched it, and specifically because of the poster, because my brother and I at a yard sale had bought the board game that they made out of this movie where you just kind of roll dice and kind of move around the different things. I don't remember all of it. It probably sat next to the alligator game that we, didn't get to talk about. But like I remember that poster. I remember this movie as a kid watching it and then catching it on cable through the years. And then I forgot about it. And like you in my 20s, like revisited it with a group of friends that were just like, hey, let's all watch something. And it was on, I don't know, Showtime or something like that. And we all turned it on and watched it and just had a blast with it. But I remember this movie distinctly from when it came out. I'm the old enough to remember that. And it has always amazed me as to like, how did this not work and fucking Goonies did? Because that movie's terrible and this movie's so much more fun.
Marketing was
That's, yeah.
is the main answer to that. I'm glad you brought Shane Black up though. I feel like Shane Black comes up a lot in this
Yeah.
podcast. We
Yeah.
we talk about him a lot.
Someday Shane Black Christmas will happen, but
Someday.
Someday
it's Ron's dream.
I can keep dreaming.
What about Monster Squad with you though, Ron?
I have very little history with Monster Squad. I think like Lindsay, I saw it when I was older. I didn't see it as a kid. I'm not sure how I missed it. I think by the time I
Yeah.
was old enough to enjoy this movie was kind of considered kind of old hat because it had been
Mhm.
out for, several years. Because in '87 I was like 6, so I was too young to enjoy this kind of thing. Um, Especially when for like 99 cents you could rent like a 2 hours worth of GI Joe or He-Man episodes, and that was more my jamming at
Hmm.
6 years old.
I mean,
So
that's fair.
I
Yeah.
missed this one completely, but I've gone back and watched it because, as obviously established by Jay's little comment, I'm a big Shane Black guy, um,
Mhm.
even though I'm white, um, especially because I'm white. Because that's just Shane. That's what Shane Black writes. I think so.
Yeah. It's a fun time for sure. I think
Uh,
the other hook is the Universal monsters and stuff. Like Lindsay, we did Creature of the Black Lagoon from the Black Lagoon years ago. I think it's part of a Shocktober even.
yeah.
And I've always had an affinity for those, and it's fun to revisit those and then to see something that camps them up, is yeah, right up my alley.
Something that
Yeah.
camps him up that isn't one of the sequels to the original Universal
Yeah,
Monster
yeah,
movies.
right. Yeah, that doesn't self camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they humanize them too. I mean, I think that's probably the mark of any good creature feature. But
Mm.
in there, this movie has some really legitimately scary pieces in it. And then I feel like it's really well balanced with the funny parts and the what feels like made for kids parts, even though it's rated PG-13 or was rated PG-13 when it came out, which was another reason why it the marketing failed it too, because they were marketing to the wrong crowd and
Yeah.
it's it missed its mark there.
This is definitely a like it needed to be spun to the younger group. Again,
Hmm.
the kids that would have watched Gremlins and Goonies and stuff like that. Um, yeah, shooting this to the teens is not necessarily the way to have gone. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, 'cause there's nothing more annoying when you're a teenager than younger kids, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like by this point, teenagers in 1987 had already been watching Friday the 13th movies and stuff
Yeah.
Right,
for
right.
years.
Yeah.
And, uh, Freddy and Jason and, Michael Myers and all those guys were much bigger deal than like the Universal monsters. And I just feel like PG-13 was just rough enough to keep the kids
Yeah.
that this would be perfect for out of the theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also had the unfortunate experience of being on the tail of Lost Boys, which was released like
Mm,
2 weeks prior to
yeah.
this.
Oof.
And you had that box office hit, and then this PG-13.
Yeah, like if you go from like Jamie Gertz
Yeah.
and Kiefer Sutherland to this, that's a twist. So it's hard to sell the same 15-year-old kid on the same two things. So
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And as a 15-year-old self, I would have preferred to see Lost Boys, I think,
yeah.
than Monster Squad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you
Lost
would have
Boys was
liked Monster Squad, but you didn't want to talk about Monster Squad to the kid.
Sure. Yeah. I think like 9 or 10 would have been
Yeah.
the right slot for Monster Squad.
Hmm.
and I feel like by that point, by the point you would be willing to talk about Monster Squad when you're a little bit older, outside of the teenage demographics, Shane Black wasn't really a thing yet
No.
to
Yeah.
people in general. Like that wasn't a thing until the internet started talking about movies. Now everybody talks
Yeah.
about Shane Black all the time, where before it was just nerd
It's just
readers.
it was just nerds who read credits like me that was like that guy, his movie, and like I paid attention to that. I really did,
Yeah,
y'all.
it was people who owned the Leonard Maltin movie guide and
Yes,
people who like me read the movie listings in the back of the newspaper
Ron
TV
guilty.
section. Yeah,
Yep,
went
yep.
through it. Went through it every day, or went through
Hmm.
it every Sunday. They would come out in the weekly thing, and I'd go
Hmm.
through it and I'd see who did what movies. If it was a name I recognized from a movie that I'd watched previously and liked, I would circle it. or highlighted somehow.
Mhm.
It was like my version of like a degenerate gambler's racing form.
Yeah. Look, it was the benefits of growing up in a town that had a New York Times regional newspapers. We got all the New York Times like stuff in our Sunday paper, like all the box office, all the production credits, all the like wire story stuff that the locals didn't write got in there. And I read that cover to cover, man. Yeah. So
That's so funny. Wait, how big was the movie theater where you guys grew up?
we had two, Lindsay. The one at the mall had four screens on it, and the one on the other side of town had six. And that's
Oh,
the one
wait,
I saw Jaws 3D in. And then there was the cheap one across the river that was the second run theater. Like, you got the, like, had already been in theaters, and that was the dollar theater, and that had two screens on it. So,
what about you, Ron? Did you have?
I had a bunch of different movie theater options. I was spoiled for choice.
ooh,
I had
Well, I mean
one
that's
movie theater option, and it had
wow.
3 screens. And the next closest movie theater was almost an hour away. So,
Yeah.
I just want everybody to know, Lindsay, like Ron and I grew up in the South, and Lindsay had a more rural lifetime experience than we did growing up.
Yeah, but we grew up in like, well, I don't know where you grew up, Jay, but I
I
grew
grew
up
up
in
in
the
North out
city.
Florence, man. I grew up in
Oh
Florence.
yeah, well, yeah. So you grew up in the city too. It just wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, I grew up in a city of like 1 million people. So
oh,
yeah,
South or not,
my
yeah.
I
my
think our
city
dollar
in
theater,
quotes.
like,
Yeah.
sorry, Lindsay.
Oh, I was gonna say my city in quotes was, I think, maybe 25,000 people,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was gigantic in the map. Like the footprint of the city is big, but just
The
really small
population
town.
density
Yeah,
was, well, I mean, like, it was like, I think Florence was like 60 when I was growing up or whatever, but it was spread out more. I used to think there was nothing to do there till I moved to Troy. And then I realized there was really nothing to do there.
No, I think we had the dollar theater I went to the most as a kid was like an 8 screen theater.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and that wasn't the only dollar theater in town. We
Mhm.
had a couple other ones. And then we had an old 2 screen movie house that was where they showed the Rocky Horror Picture Show every Friday night
nice.
Man.
that I
So,
was able to go to a couple of times as an older teen slash 20-year-old back from
uh,
college before it got bought and turned into it's like a paper store now and a bunch of it got turned into a mediocre strip mall kind of deal. And it
uh,
looks super cool on the outside, and I've never been inside, and
see,
I never will because I hate it.
the six screener we had, the Hickory Hills in Florence, was right behind the actual Pizza Hut that like you sat down in that had the
Hmm.
Dragon's Lair arcade and all that in it, and then like the Arby's in town. And now it's like a faux mega church, which is funny to me.
I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
Righteous Gemstones.
It's like one of those campuses where they just beam in the preaching, but they have their own like praise team or whatever. I
Oh
don't know.
yeah,
It's one of
one of those
those.
deals.
Yeah, yeah. So but which is funny to everybody who grew up in Florence because you know what went down in that theater. But
Yeah, one of our local theaters got completely demolished and is now where Costco is.
no,
So
see, I mean, capitalism at work. So
I think our little 3 screener is still in the big Cove City.
that's awesome though that it still
Yeah.
exists. Like the two screener dollar that we have now, I think like I don't know, there's like a AutoZone there or something. It's in Muscle Shoals where the Walmart used to be. So, but it now is like a call center for someplace or was. I
Ah,
guess it's a chat center now. Nobody calls anybody, but yeah.
yeah, our last dollar theater turned into a hospital,
Oh
like an
wow,
outpatient hospital kind of thing. Not like a real hospital, but like a
I can see it.
a massive medical complex.
Yeah,
it's a good use of space.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not really. It's disappointing because I miss the dollar theater, but
Come for the Monster Squad. Stay for the discussions on city planning, folks.
yeah.
Welcome
This
to film strips.
welcome to Film Strip, where three middle-aged adjacent people complain about the
Let's go
March
s-
of Progress.
I was gonna say, I don't know that Lindsay's quite hit that spot
I'm,
just
I
yet.
I think I can officially be what age is middle age now?
Do you have lower back pain? Because then you have middle age.
It depends on how I sit.
Okay, then
That means
yes, you have
Okay.
middle age. If you answer that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if that answer is not just straight up no, then you're middle-aged.
You qualified that
Yeah.
in the most middle-aged way possible.
Yeah.
What chair did I use today?
If I sit in the same position for too long and then stand up, I
The
look
couch
like an
lock just the
80s.
right
Yep.
way. You know?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I hear you.
So back to this child's movie.
Is it
Jay,
though? Like it's a movie with kids in it, but it's not really children.
you're right. I genuinely feel like it's got something for every age, but it is, I think, supposed to be considered a coming of age movie,
For sure. Yeah.
but with monsters.
I feel like this movie was a direct inspiration for Hocus Pocus, Lindsay, speaking of your this potential
Yeah.
spooky season opener. Mostly because of the obsession with virginity
Mhm.
and whether or not the main girl in the movie is a virgin or not.
Well, this is, I mean, it's not explicitly said really, I think, until we get to Scream, but like virginity is still a long running theme in most horror films, right? There's always a little bit of slut shaming. The people who get caught making out or caught having sex, they're the first ones to get murdered in any like classic slasher film. So
Mhm.
this trend has been there for decades now, and this is just kind of straight up saying we need a virgin to save the world.
Right.
Yeah, or at least like a decade, because I think you can kind of trace that one back to well, it's in Black Christmas a little bit. It's in a little bit in Last House on the Left, although they're not really being shamed for their virginity. They're being
Yeah.
shamed for buying drugs, like some degenerate hippies.
Right. Well,
Trying
and
to
John
try-
Carpenter will tell you that was never their intent with Halloween, was that, the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis's character was the quote virginal one, like they didn't really intend that, but it just went that way. Really, the one to blame for that is Friday the 13th, man. They're the ones that
Yeah.
really jumped on that train
Yeah.
and just drove it in the ground. So,
But
real
well,
quick though, just a confession, real quick. I've never seen Hocus Pocus ever.
I don't think that's a stain on your viewing repertoire, Jay. I don't know if you were ever the target audience for that movie.
It certainly probably was
necessarily.
not. No, that's fair. That's a fair statement.
I
I
think
just
you
hear it brought
were,
up, and I'm
yeah.
like, can't tell you, didn't see it, don't
I
know.
think when it came out and when it was a really big deal, I think you were a little too old and also the wrong sex.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fair. Yeah, but I did like Practical Magic, oddly enough.
I love, that's who
Yeah.
doesn't like a good midnight margarita?
I've
But that tracks.
yeah.
That kind of tracks with what we know about you, though, Jay. You're surprisingly you have surprising interests.
I do. I really do. Well, part of that one comes from I was in a friend's wedding, and the background music when we weren't playing was Practical Magic, and so I was like, all right. And so I watched it, and I was like, okay, I get it. This is a really good score. Also, this movie's cute.
Yeah, it
So,
is. It's
yeah.
cute and it's surprising, and maybe we'll do that on here one day.
Never know. You never know. But
You
not
never
on
know.
a Shocktober because there's nothing friggin' scary about it at all.
No,
So,
no, no, but it is cute.
yes.
Well, Jay, can I kick it to Chat GPT for our plot summary before
Let's-
we get too far off the rails?
Let's see what the old computer came up with here. So forget the 80s kids who found a magical map and decided to save the world from treasure hunters. Mess with that. In the Monster Squad, a gaggle of Universal Monster obsessed preteen boys and one precocious little sister find the actual diary of Abraham Van Helsing, which naturally means Dracula's back in town and he's not looking to join the local PTA or Rotary clubs. So the Count has assembled the classic monster lineup. He's got the Wolfman, Fly. He has nards. That's how I'm saying FYI these days. The Mummy, the Gillman, a.k.a. creature from the black, brown, green, or whatever algae lagoon you got, and Frankenstein's monster to find an ancient amulet of concentrated good that will let him permanently plunge the world into darkness because, world domination is always on the village checklist. And apparently no self-respecting vampire who is also immortal is going to outsource monster recruitment when you can just do it yourself, because screw you, Indeed.com. You won't sponsor us. These kids, armed with more classic horror movie trivia than sense, and that we have here on Filmstrip, decide to set out and decode that diary. Problem is, it's in German and nobody's in high school yet. So they do outsource that work to the, quote, scary German guy next door, end quote, who definitely does not have a monster fighting past. Together, they figure out how to use the mystical MacGuffin to open up a portal and suck the whole ghoul squad back into limbo. Now they're making silver bullets, they're staking out the neighborhood, they're debating monster weaknesses, while the adults, including the club leader's skeptical cop dad, are completely useless, convinced all the dead bodies, werewolves, and flying bats are just some complex juvenile delinquency problem. So proto Sunnydale for those who are initiated. Meanwhile, the Frankenstein monster turns out to be a big soft lug who ditches the villain team up to hang out with the little sister, proving that even Patchwork Horror can be swayed by a girl who offers a teddy bear and zero judgment. The whole thing boils down to a ludicrous, monster-stuffed churchyard siege. Our heroes, having dragged the amulet to its designated spot, are nearly overrun, but not before they deliver some memorable one-liners and an absolute legendary croc kick to the Wolfman and his aforementioned nards. With the help of monster ally Frankenstein, the kids finally open the portal, and Dracula tries to play the take you with me card with the club leader, but he gets a wooden stake as a parting gift. The monsters are sucked into the vortex, and it's a surprisingly poignant moment for a movie with lines like "The Wolfman's got nards." Frankenstein's monster decides to say goodbye to his new playdate before willingly letting go and following his fellow ghouls into the portal. The military finally shows up after nuking Louisville from Return of the Dead, apparently, way late, and the kids just hand them the business card that says, "The Monster Squad. Don't call us, we'll call you. We're busy with homework." Roll credits.
Very nice.
Oh, wow. That was very succinctly put, Jay.
It is the Chat GPT.
Yeah. Well done. Well done.
You know, it's interesting to see a Dracula that has like big goals rather than,
Right. Yeah. Just some chick.
Dracula from Lost Boys just like wanted to have a family or whatever and run one tiny town in California, which
The original Dracula was still hung up on his high school crush. What are you talking
that's a
about?
good point. Yep.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
But I'm thinking of like 80s Draculas. They were more like business Draculas because like
the George Hamilton, Dracula, or the
and, like,
once bitten Dracula that Carmelita and I talked about on a few
very nice, yes.
few episodes ago.
The original Fright Night Dracula.
Oh yeah, no, look, Jerry just wanted to live next door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the remake Dracula just kind of wants to be left alone to hang out and drink some blood occasionally.
Even the Twilight Draculas just want to live.
They just wanted to hang in the
life.
PNW and continually go to high school, which is its own personal level of hell.
So weird.
I mean, they know what they did. They know what they've done, Jay.
Yeah, they do.
Well,
They
I mean,
do.
considering one of them was a Confederate soldier, and
I forgot that.
and the other one was involved in trench warfare in World War I think. Like, he definitely did some war crimes. So,
and one was Mike Dexter. So
Mike Dexter to steal a bit from We Hate Movies.
Please come on the show. We Hate Movies.
Yeah.
We'll just keep inviting you forever.
Yeah, and you'll never respond, and that's okay.
One day we can dream. So,
although I did, sorry, before we actually talk about the thing we're here, I have one more unrelated story to tell Jay that I don't remember if I ever told him or not. But I sent a copy of After Last Season to the Flophouse guys.
Yes, you have told me this. Yes.
They never responded.
I'm
was like,
not
thank you for
surprised.
this. Thank you for this movie. I'll check it out. And then
no.
Hey,
I still contend we brought a lot of intellectual enlightenment to that movie. So we would go back in the archives, listen to you and Brian talking about that. So, and someday I've got to mail that to Lindsey and her Brian, and mostly just to see if you can get him to sit through it.
Probably not. But
yeah, it's one of those who will survive and what will be left of them situations, except who will stay awake and will they pay attention?
While we're on it, what is your Brian's thoughts on the Monster Squad, real quick?
this was apparently his first viewing of it ever.
Okay.
Even though he was like, you say it's your favorite movie, you never put it on. And I was like, I literally put it on every year, at least once. I said, I think last year, because I reviewed it and I had him watch it with me last year, I said, I think you fell asleep. I don't know. But it was definitely on. But he actually did sit down and watch it, and he seemed
Nice.
to enjoy it. He had no negative notes. He just sat there and like enjoyed the movie. You normally, if he knows it's a movie that is going to be reviewed, he'll sit and ask questions and like offer up some thoughts and, different tidbits. But no, he just enjoyed the movie, which really I think is a testament to the Monster Squad.
That's actually a pretty positive review from Brian on this, I would say.
Yeah. And I will say, to piggyback off what you guys were just talking about, I feel like we've brought a lot of enlightening discussions to movies that probably don't deserve it. But
well, tonight we'll just have to up our game.
But it's always interesting. It's always fascinating.
It is what we do here, right? I mean,
yeah. Look, there are movies that coming into one of these recordings, I'm like, wow, that movie was terrible. And afterwards, I'm like, did I like that movie?
That's the power of Ron and Jay's persuasiveness.
I'm so confused.
You see, when you have two people who were taught creative writing in college.
I don't know. I like this one. So
I mean, look, I convinced Misty and Kendall on Two Girls, One Crypt to read a book about the Columbine Massacre because of a ninth Hellraiser movie. So anything can be argued.
Oh man, that's some next level shit, Jay.
It's there. I'm telling you, it's there. It's in the subtext. I'm telling you. So
if anyone's listening that has pull,
you can go listen to that on Two Girls, One Crypt.
I back to Dracula. I don't know how to like transition.
I think we got to talk about the monsters and the Monster Squad. That's kind of the only way to talk about this movie.
I like the Dracula. He has big goals, but he's also like the dad.
He is. Yes. Yeah, he gets like really frustrated. Yeah.
He wakes Frankenstein up. He make sure that they're all, kind of where they're supposed to be.
That scene when Frank is like getting his hand up out of the grave or whatever, and they're just standing there, and like you see like Wolfman is standing there, and he looks like Michael J. Fox's version of Teen Wolf, but then you just have the random creature Gilman just sort of hanging out. I'm like, shouldn't they be pouring water over him at some point? Like that would have been a fun gag. I know what this is. This is Shane Black and Fred Decker taking their love of what they grew up on, watching reruns and Nickelodeons of the Universal Monster movies and stuff like that, and just putting it in like the 80s sheen, and that's what's funny about it is that the monsters play off like you say, like the boring adults. I just want to take over the world. What's the big deal?
God, like I'm the first one. Jeez.
Yeah. Go ask that German guy next door. He knows. So.
Just let me live my life.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. To Dracula as put upon sitcom dad.
Yeah.
Is just a really funny take on it. It's interesting because these do feel like a very 80s take on the Universal monsters, and I'm a little bit surprised that this didn't kick off a Universal attempt to do a reboot franchise with the Universal monsters now, now as in 1987, rather than in 2007 when the Dark Universe kept failing.
It's because this movie didn't make any money, man. Like if it had, they would have done that. So
yeah, but usually just blame that on Shane Black and try again.
Not in the 80s. That wasn't until the 90s we started blaming him for all the problems. That was,
That's fair.
this was fresh, And Fred, look, I love Fred Dekker movies. We've talked about Night of the Creeps. Like, I love Fred Dekker, but like he makes a certain kind of movie. So the fact that it didn't like score huge at the box office, but then found its home, life on home and rental and stuff like that kind of tracks, like,
I mean, isn't that just the story of like all of his movies that he was involved in the writing of, like House and Ricochet
mhm.
and the disaster that was RoboCop 3 that I actually kind of like.
That's not the one. That's the one where they replaced Peter Weller, right? With the guy from Thinner.
Yeah, Robert John Burke.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
That's
So,
right. And it's a PG-13 RoboCop, so that's how you know it's not as good.
yeah.
But
What
RoboCop
were
does
the
get
other
machine gun
RoboCop?
hands.
They are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The
one
other
and two are hard R's.
one
Yeah.
and two are very hard R. Number
Yeah.
3 is PG-13, but he does get machine gun hands and he does get a jetpack.
So it kind of become like a video game version of RoboCop.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more bloodless. It's a bit goofier. The bad guys are pretty clearly coded to be like South African paramilitary guys.
Yeah.
So you could just kill a bunch of white people and not have to worry about the optics of RoboCop shooting anybody who isn't,
Like,
our shade or lighter.
yeah, I mean, like RoboCop 1 is like this it's political satire on the 80s and lots of other things, consumerism, America, and all that. RoboCop 2 is like a satire on the war on drugs. And
Yeah.
then RoboCop 3 is the kid version of both of those ideas, but done cheaper. So,
Yeah. And RoboCop 2 is very much not just a satire on the war on drugs, but also written by Frank Miller, who was very
mhm.
much on drugs at the time.
Yes, and directed by the guy that brought us Empire Strikes Back, Irvin Kershner. So,
Yeah. So I
um,
mean, it was in good hands, at least in the director's share.
we might have to bring that up on our aforementioned or forethought of terrible twos or not terrible twos February episodes. Who knows? Or like everything else that we name drop on this show, we may forget that we said it and never record the episode. You never
Sometimes it
know.
comes back. Sometimes it comes back.
Yeah,
Sometimes they come back.
yeah,
The
just like
movie.
your shirt says. So. But yeah, but no, I'm with. I love your take on Dracula, and I love Duncan Rager. I don't know him from anything else, but I thought he was a great Dracula. He was what I thought of as Dracula, because I was a kid. I was 11 when this came out, y'all. So I mean, I was in Dracula mode, and I was like, yeah, that's Dracula. This is what he looked like. It was a lot better than George Hamilton or any of the other Draculas I'd seen at that point. Frank Langella, I hadn't seen the classic one at that point. So
Yeah. Well, he was scary,
Mhm.
and he really scared Ashley Bank, who played Phoebe. She
Yeah, the
was
kid.
legitimately scared of him as
Poor child.
Dracula. She talks about that later, like as an adult being
That,
terrified.
that's so Fred Dekker too, to have like a kid and not protect him in the horror movie. Like, nah, scare the hell out of her. I don't care.
There is, and I don't know if either of you have seen it. There is actually a really nice documentary about the Monster Squad called Wolfman's Got Nards. It's free on Tubi
Oh,
currently, but they interview most of the people in the cast who are now fully adults, and Ashley Bank talks about how she really liked all the actors who played the monsters, and just they were all so kind and nice, but she
mhm.
was always terrified of Dracula, of Duncan Rager. Like she was always terrified of him. And I think part of it was because like a lot of the success of the kids being able to act is that a lot was kept from them. So their reactions in this movie are usually genuine reactions, like terrified
Huh.
reactions to the monsters.
I'm gonna have to watch that. That's once again Tubi delivers, but yeah, I'm gonna have to check
Yeah.
that out. So
Yeah, it was really good. It was just neat to hear all of, I mean, it's straight from the horse's mouth. They interview all
hmm.
the actors. They interview Shane Black, like he's on there. Um, but it's, yeah, highly recommend as a follow-up to this movie if you guys haven't seen it, and if anyone listening slash watching hasn't seen it, check it out
I'll
for
definitely
sure.
have to check that out. So, can we talk about how perfect Tom Noonan is as the
Oh man.
Frankenstein's monster?
Yes, he's so great. I that's 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 all I have.
I mean, I
He's just
know it's,
great.
but that's like if you know the Frankenstein story, like the original, like he is like this tender thing, you know. He just doesn't realize how, you know, freakishly unholy strong he is and stuff. It's kind of the
Hmm.
sad part of Frankenstein's monster story.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
But he's
it's
so sweet.
he's so good in this, but he's got such a history of playing scumbags and terrible people throughout like his filmography.
yeah.
Like we've he was in Manhunter
Hmm.
as and he was one of the bad guys in Last Action Hero. He was Kane in the aforementioned RoboCop 2, which I think
Yep.
since we keep mentioning we kind of have to do it now.
Yeah.
Um,
He was one of the instigators in Heat. I
yeah,
mean,
he was and he was Mr. Ullman in House of the Devil,
oh
which is
yes.
a pretty uh, deep cut in our archives, which I
Hmm.
recommend people checking out because that movie was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And he's been great on TV.
Mhm.
He was super creepy on that 12 Monkeys TV show that came
Yeah.
out. Yeah, he's great. And
He's just this long lank, you know, that's the thing. He looks like he played center at Western Kentucky or something, you know, in the 70s. And here he is, you know, and yeah, he's got the arms for it, he's got the movements and the makeup job. We got to talk about the makeup job in this movie is awesome all the way around, but he looks amazing.
I mean, that's what you get when you hire Stan Winston. He's not going to do
Yeah.
Mhm.
anything part way.
That's
And yeah,
true.
he's like 6'5" or 6'6". He's super tall and super lean. And he was not an actor. Like he didn't grow up wanting to be an actor. He just kind of stumbled into it,
Hmm.
stumbled into theater, and that's what kind of got him into film. Because when you see a giant tree man stomping around, you find that to be very interesting visually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he just has a way, and the way he kind of lurks around. And again, like he's the one that's played very sympathetically because he's going to befriend, or Phoebe's going to befriend him, you know. And I couldn't help but watch this, and forgive me for this, Lindsay, but I'm just sitting there watching this, going like, seems like the kind of kid Lindsay would have been.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I was for sure.
that tracks.
Yep.
Yeah, but, yeah. Lindsay would have tamed Frankenstein's monster and like brought him home, had him working in
I
the
would
garden.
have. I
So.
used to bring all kinds of things home that my mom was not thrilled with. Snakes, lizards.
Did you ever bring home a possum?
I no, I cannot say that I've ever brought home a possum.
Yeah, well, this movie, in the one of the opening scenes when we see the original Van Helsing going after Dracula, one
Mhm.
of Dracula's brides is drinking the blood of a possum,
Yes.
which is not an animal that they have in Romania.
Romania.
That is a North American only marsupial.
I did not know that. See,
Yeah,
you come to Film Strip for the Movie Talk, you learn all kinds of things.
but it's
I
a
would
good
That
have,
is
choice
the
because you
thing that
can't,
I know now.
and it's a good choice because you can't get rabies from a possum.
I mean, you
There,
know what?
Oh,
That's the kind of thing Shane Black would have looked up or actually would have talked to somebody, looked up. He ever would have looked it up, go to the library. He would have talked to like 20 people and found that out back in the time.
yeah.
yeah.
Look, man, what
I
kind
don't
of,
know. I don't feel like a possum would be that satiating, but I don't know. She seemed to
I,
be enjoying it in that scene.
I don't know, man. Like Robert Pattinson got by on some deer, you know, in Twilight, and he was doing
Yeah, but you'd have
okay.
to drink like 15 possums to get one deer's worth of blood.
Yeah.
I don't
It
know.
seems
Michael Myers lived for
inefficient.
years just eating rats and fennel, y'all. So it's okay. Like it
Okay,
can
that's
work,
that's
you know.
fair.
So,
And I
That's a,
mean, maybe that was just like an aperitif or something. Maybe that was a snack to
that's
get
fair. That's a fair point.
an
We don't know
amuse
what the rest
bouche.
of that meal looked like.
Yeah,
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 it's an amuse bouche leading up to
an
the main
amuse
event where she's
bouche.
going to try to eat Van Helsing.
right. Or it was that dessert after like slaughtering some village virgins? You don't know. You
That
know.
could be it
Point.
too. Fair
Yes,
point.
some
Yep.
townie. You know,
Do
she
We're
you
only
turns.
getting one snippet here.
Yeah.
do you think this Dracula can only drink the blood of virgins, or can he just kind of drink whatever blood?
I I'm gonna tell you how I read that. I read that as he can drink the blood of whatever, but he's like so like refined that he will
Mm.
only drink the blood of the virgins.
Oh,
It's
so
very
he's like a blood sommelier type
yes,
thing.
yes. Like I must have the American version. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He's not one of
Vintage.
these
Yeah.
people that drinks wine for the grapiness. He drinks
No.
wine for like the bouquet
Yes,
and
no, he
the
will sit there and
like,
sift it for you and just tell you all of the
yeah,
palette that the
he knows the
wood is
profile.
harmonizing with the rosebuds, you know, all
Yes,
this,
this
yeah.
is an 1876. I
Yeah.
don't
Yes,
know.
exactly. Or in
This
Dracula's
is
case, this is 674.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
this is just making me think of that awful Andy Warhol Blood for Dracula movie where if he drinks the blood of someone who's not a virgin, it gives him like face
Indigestion.
syphilis.
Oh my God. That's way worse. I was just thinking maybe
yeah.
it didn't sit in his tummy well, like when I drink beer
Oh
instead
no,
of, liquor.
it doesn't sit in his tummy well either, but it also gives him like terrible lesions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
Turns
it's
him
an
into Cobra
interesting.
Commander all of a sudden.
right.
Yes, and then they definitely do. He definitely starts talking in that voice. No,
Yeah.
Is that
Yes.
like the vampire version of celiac? Is they can't tolerate
The non-virgin
non-virgin
blood.
blood? Oh no, I can only drink virgin
Blood.
blood.
And
Can you
you're in the
imagine them in
80s in
LA?
California. Good luck. It's all I
yeah,
can
good luck,
say.
pal.
So,
And even the virgins in California are probably smoking some wacky tobacco or imbibing some nose candy or
or
doing
Probably.
they're
something that
dating, or they're dating like, William Zabka, and you're gonna have to deal with that nonsense
and then you're
later.
gonna have to kill. Then you're gonna have to eat all of Cobra Kai.
Yes,
John
exactly.
Kreese is gonna show up, and nobody wants that because it's so leathery that you can't get a good purchase with your teeth.
That's what no, this is why Dracula has other friends though, because the Gill Man is not gonna have that kind of like, or the Wolf Man, they're not gonna be that picky. They're just there to clean up the problems.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting because it harkens back to a lot of the original Universal Monster sequels, where
Hmm.
Dracula is using the other monsters to do his bidding.
Yeah, they're his henchmen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like traditionally, I think Frankenstein's kind of
This is
his
heavy.
his
Yeah.
go-to heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Wolfman does some stuff. They never mentioned Wolfman's name, and I feel like that's kind of disappointing. They don't call him like Larry Talbot or
Yeah.
like say he's like Larry Talbot's great great grandson,
I,
Barry Talbot.
yeah, I felt like they very tough. I felt like they were like skirting the line on like nobody really knows the backstories of these other people. They know Dracula, they know Frankenstein's monster. They know we're correctly calling it Frankenstein's monster. Most people just call it Frankenstein. So they
Yeah.
know this. Like it's whatever the crunch bear like the cereal. Like do we know this? We can't have a ghost, so everybody knows Frankie Berry and Count Chocula. Those are our stars. So.
Yeah. And
Well,
Blueberry is just a made
Fruit
up.
Root is a werewolf, right?
Fruit Brute is a werewolf, but only Quentin Tarantino brought that back into the pop culture lexicon. Nobody else knew what the hell that was. Shane
That's
Black
interesting.
probably did, but
Yeah.
Well, Yummy
Poor wolf,
Mummy,
man.
Yummy. I forget about Yummy Mummy. He was, yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't remember the Mummy ever. I'm sure the Mummy, the original Mummy, had a name, but I don't know it, and I don't think anybody knows it.
Imhotep. They didn't.
They
That
just
that's
know, yeah,
yeah.
they just know like he should be wearing a fez at some point because all I remember that movie is Boris Karloff wearing a fez, but also
Yes.
having like, uh,
I I feel like all of my modern everything I know about mummies has got replaced by the Brendan Fraser movie. Like that was just such a force when it came out, and I just
Yeah.
it kind of erased because it is probably the best mummy movie ever made. No offense to the Universal ones, but come on, I mean that's an amazing film. So
Yeah, I would
like,
agree. I like how they did the mummy here though, and the
mhm.
unraveling bit at the
Yeah,
end was really cool.
yeah, he's hanging under the back of the truck, and they get the arrow, the whole nine.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
yeah,
mean,
that
you
was
think
fun.
about it and you go see a mummy in any museum and like they're so delicately preserved and taken care of that
Mhm.
I could totally I mean, not I'm suspending my disbelief for a lot in this movie, but I could absolutely see a mummy unraveling and just turning to dust. That makes sense to me, sure.
It was a good gag.
Especially the
Yeah.
part where you get the rolling skull at the end after it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
always a fun bit. Just a great bit I love is
Mhm.
rolling skulls.
I mean, what we've talked about it before, but once again, the genius of practical effects and good camera work, and it just works.
And this
And
is
poor Gilman just gets the shortest shrift of anybody in this movie.
I feel like that we talked about that when we did Black Creature of the Black Lagoon, Lindsay. Like nobody remembers it, but it's pretty amazing. But just it's
Yeah,
just forgotten, you know?
it's beautiful, and that's like Gilman definitely had the craziest costume. Like or I don't it would we even call it a costume? What it's all built
Hmm.
around him. Like
Hmm.
he's glued into it, but it looks so good. And we don't get to
It's
see very much of him.
it's so fishy and slimy, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like I wanted more of that. I really did. I feel you're right, Ron. Like they really short shrift him. But I mean, look, Dracula's the star. Frankenstein's the fun one that we're gonna. Frankenstein's monster's the one we're gonna fall in love with
Yeah,
because he,
yeah.
you know,
Frankenstein's a sympathetic one. Wolfman gets the comedy bits.
yes, yes, and the
The
Nards.
and
So
the well, that's the comedy bit.
yeah.
His nards are apparently very funny. Um, oh,
That whole discussion about why Wolfman wears pants.
Yes.
and
That
also
feels
they're
like
like,
that feels like this the spurring moment of like a billion Family Guy asides. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is Seth MacFarlane's entire life.
that the part
that's
where they're
it.
like, "There's two ways to kill a wolf man," and he's like, "Silver bullet," and they're like, "Okay, what's the?" And he's like, "Okay, what's the other one?" And none of the kids knows what the second one is. They're like, "Blow him up with dynamite," which we see doesn't work in
No.
this movie, which was an awesome looking bit of puppetry.
Oh
But
yes, yeah,
Yep.
that was an amazing scene and also very funny that they just stuffed the dynamite down his pants
yeah.
because Wolfman needs more Nard based catastrophes in this
If
picture.
you're a preteen boy and that's who this movie's really like, marketed toward or should have been marketed toward,
Yeah.
that's funny. Like
Uh,
I laughed at that as a because I was a preteen boy when I saw this. I thought that was funny as hell.
Yeah.
it's still pretty funny.
No, but
It,
yeah, look, it's almost a 50-year-old. It's funny. Yeah, so yeah.
it's hilarious. And how many, I mean, you know, Nards aside, calling it anything but what it is hilarious. Like I
Yeah.
feel like everyone had their own, I don't know, phraseology for that.
There's nomenclature for that
Yeah, yeah. But
anatomical.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that there was what was the other one? Oh, getting dorked. That still kills me every time I hear it. When
It's
they're
pretty
asked,
funny.
what we want to know is the extent to which you have or have not been dorked. What?
I love
I
the
love it.
response though. It's like, excuse me.
Well,
That
that's
though, I
the
think is
dialogue
like,
in this whole thing is great.
yeah,
But
that's one of the strengths of this movie is that you
Yeah.
get some really sharp writing, and it doesn't devolve into like Goonies where
Hmm.
it was a lot of Goonies was like if a Robert Altman movie was full of people who did nothing but scream
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
versus
Beautiful screaming.
this where it's just like constantly talky screaming
Well,
versus
it's
this where it's like really sharp and
yeah.
like the bits don't linger too the bits don't overstay their welcome.
right.
Shane Black's snappy dialogue with Fred Decker's like pastiche for B movie stuff, and I
Hmm.
don't mean that in a bad way, but just that aesthetic is a great mix. Like it really is. Look, that's the thing we talked about it in Night of the Creeps. Like that's part of the selling point of that movie is how friggin' funny it is. In
Hmm.
addition to like. I mean, like Tom Atkins is just chewing scenery in that movie with all of his nonsense, but it only works because it's in that place. And this movie too, like what keeps it from dragging, like something like Goonies, in my opinion, or some of these other things, is that it is snappy, it is funny. And look, I'm not sold. I can't remember. Like my friends on the playground, we weren't that witty, but this is how you talk. Like you zinged each other, you know?
Yeah. I remember all the kids in my class talking like this when we were around that age. And I think the writing is key, but the kids' ability to deliver the lines was
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
important because, like you said in the Goonies, I feel like there are definitely points where you can tell that the kids were told to either improv or maybe they forgot the line and they tried to make up for it somehow and they threw their own things in. I feel like there was none of that in that movie. And that's not to say, first of all, I want to go on record saying I love the Goonies, but I really, really like Monster Squad. And I think a big part of it is the writing, but also the kids' ability to deliver exactly what was written or the meaning behind what was written, what they were supposed to be saying.
What I
And they don't feel like they were pushed as much to ham it up either.
yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel
That's
like
true.
Goonies very much was like, okay, more, louder, bigger, bigger.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, not big enough. Bigger, that kind of thing. And I feel like this, Fred Decker was more willing to say, all right, just a little bit more, a little bit less, we'll fix it in
Yeah.
editing, that kind of thing.
I mean, it's clear like they figured out how to get them all to get along in some ways. And one thing I'll appreciate about the dialogue in this is like a lot of times in movies when kids are like given like profanity, it's like the way adults use profanity. Well, kids don't know how to curse. And so this sound like kids trying to use curse words. And that's what's funny about it.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
does Phoebe say? Don't be chicken shit.
Yes, exactly. And you're just like, oh.
It's great. I
Also,
got
you
in
probably
trouble in kindergarten for saying shit, and I didn't.
you
I
know
had
what
to,
that was.
I had to stand in timeout for like an hour.
God, an
Oh,
hour?
wow.
Yeah,
Was your teacher an ex-German or something
I
like
don't
that?
know.
Oh my God.
No, she was nice, but I don't know. It felt like an hour as a 5-year-old, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, I used it in the correct context, but they weren't.
The fact
I
that you
could
remember that much about it is amazing. I mean,
Sounds like
look.
a very traumatic experience in
Anyone
your growing up.
remembers getting stuck in the corner by the Cubbies for the better part
the
of their school
Cubbies. Oh,
day.
talk about memories. The Cubbies. Yes. Oh gosh. But no, look, the kids in here are fun, and they look like they act like friends do that are
Yeah,
sort of loosely together.
Yeah, and we
yeah,
get a pretty nice introduction for the tough guy of the group too.
Yeah.
Rudy, who is not so old that it doesn't feel age appropriate to like hang out with these kids.
Hmm.
yeah,
He's definitely in a little bit older, in like middle school, but he doesn't feel like it's not like Josh Brolin being,
Yeah.
25 and hanging out with literal children.
Yeah.
It feels more like, oh, he's like 14 or 15 and he's hanging out with 12-year-olds, which is a more acceptable uh, jump to make, I think.
yeah. And I love two things. I love that he dresses like he's from the 50s, which
Yes.
is a thing, right? When I was in high school, I loved dressing like the 80s, even though and it would have been about the same time differential as 80s and 50s, I think, right? I don't know if I
Mhm.
did that math right, but um, it wasn't. That was incorrect. But anyway,
Close enough.
yeah.
Fair.
But the other impression that I got was he wanted, and tell me, I've never quite figured it out. Like he kind of was their protector, but I feel like the initial reason he wanted to be in Monster Squad was because he knew he had a good view of the girl undressing from that bedroom, like from their
1,000%.
treehouse,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Okay,
100%.
okay.
Yeah, this was all about trying to get a look. Yeah.
That's what I always thought, but
Mhm.
needed to get your take on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's the kind of thing they don't allow these days in movies.
But yeah,
They
you think
can't
about Back
remake
to the
the
Future,
thing.
that's like a
Yeah,
central plot point.
I know it was
yeah.
such a staple of every movie made until like the mid 90s.
Mhm.
I kind of feel like that Joe Esterhaus, Sharon Stone,
Oh,
uh
Sliver.
yes, there's a Baldwin and he's watching her
Yeah.
through like the video
That,
cameras creepily.
yeah.
I feel like that kind of killed all that. But also like, the
Well,
fact that it's
that
morally
and people
reprehensible
actually
behavior.
being murdered by people doing that. Like the rise
Yeah.
of true crime television probably killed it
Yeah.
too. But
Yeah, but
you're not wrong. But no, there was something that seemed like it wasn't appropriate, but there was something kind of innocent about it, the way it played off in the
mhm.
80s. And it was almost always couched in something that happened in the 50s, the 60s, right? But it was just sort of this like every kid's just trying to get a look at the pretty girl and just I'm trying to know things that other, it's just, that's what he would do. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's like the next step up from finding Playboy in the woods or whatever,
yes,
which was
exactly.
the other staple of 80s
Yes.
movies. Is there
Yep.
was always
Mhm.
some sort of weird stash of outdoor hobo pornography, I guess.
That or knowing where your dad's was or something like that,
That's
Yeah.
so real though. Like, I don't know if you guys ever accidentally stumbled on or maybe on purpose, but there was always a stash in like random houses,
yes.
usually in like a bathroom drawer or
It, I once watched a friend scale across like the built-in like TV credenza bookcase thing that they
Oh,
had going on because he knew where he's dead, like held it fine. It was like a freaking James Bond movie to pull out this porno.
wow.
And I was like, dude, you got like I'm like spotting him, making sure he doesn't fall. And I'm also the lookout at the same time. So,
Wow.
It's
I
that
mean,
feels like it could have been a scene in this
it could
movie.
really get look. It could have been in that. It could have been in one of the Revenge of the Nerds movies. I mean, or
Yeah,
Porky's,
yeah,
or any of that stuff.
yeah,
But it was because, and I think part of this is we're looking at this through lenses now, where that type of material is so, and sadly so readily accessible.
yeah,
Except where before, like there was no way to get this unless you went through clandestine efforts. So,
yeah,
and I also think too, the thing about Rudy is he's still hanging on to a little bit of that innocence of childhood. He's in that right place where you want to be so grown up, but you also still like kid stuff. Like I was still
yeah,
watching
Yeah.
cartoons probably a lot longer than I should have been, but I was just into it. But I didn't want to tell my friends that, like I was trying to be cool and stuff. So
yeah,
yeah.
I
yeah.
watched cartoons with my other friends of that age, usually at their
Mhm.
houses after school, because it was like, well, this is really funny, and they keep playing "They Might Be Giant" songs in this Animaniacs, so let's just keep checking it out.
It's because you had better stuff, man. So
Yeah, that's fair.
though I did have a set of friends in high school where we all bonded over the Animaniac song and would just randomly get in a car and drive around and sing it,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
Nice.
because that's what you
That
did.
was
And
a good song though.
Yeah,
it was a good
our,
song.
ours
So
was a lot of Ren and Stimpy,
yeah,
um,
yeah, a lot of
which
Ren and
is its
Stimpy.
own special blend of weird grossness,
Yeah.
um, but more
Yes.
biological and less, or more scatological and biological and less,
Yeah.
woods
Any
creeping.
of any
Mhm.
of the Nickelodeon cartoons were like the real ones. Rocko's Modern Life, Angry Beavers, Arrow Monsters,
Mhm.
SpongeBob. Well, SpongeBob was a little newer, but like, you know, the
Yeah.
OG Nicktoons were chef's
And like,
kiss.
Are You Afraid of the Dark was a big deal too
So
for my
good. Yeah.
generation,
I still
because that
hate
was the early
lawnmowers
like
because of that one episode.
exposure that every kid of the who was a tween and teen in the late 80s, early 90s, that was their first big exposure to like anthology television, but also like
Yeah.
horror
Yeah.
anthologies.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like that, and like old episodes of The Outer Limits, and like for me, a big deal was Erie, Indiana, because
Mhm.
that was the X Files before there was X Files for
See,
us kids, and it was the
I,
direct lead in, because like 2 years later, X Files popped up, and it was like enormous.
well,
Yeah.
see, for
That was
me,
good.
it was the Twilight Zone from the 50s, then the 80s. So all the
Hmm.
reruns and stuff like that. And then we went straight into, all the really twisted stuff that would go on late night, like the 80s Outer Limit stuff. And then like,
Oh,
you know,
like that reboot that they had on Showtime.
yeah, like we
Yeah,
would get that. And then, there's so many
Tales
like
from the
touchdowns.
Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt's a very, yeah, we talked about that before doing those three movies,
Hmm.
but that show was
Yeah.
was seminal for a lot of us. And I mean, but there was a lot of like late night B movie horror stuff that ended up on, TBS and on USA. And if you had cable and stuff like that, you could watch it. You had access to a lot of stuff. You had to catch it at the right moment. But a lot of it was, I mean, there was some grossness and stuff to it like that, but it was also built around like a lot of psychological terror, which I give a lot of credit to like Twilight Zone and,
Hmm.
all those things for those days. So as a kid that would have been closer to Rudy's age more than the younger kids or maybe right in between them, like I get it. I get what he was trying to do. But I mean, yeah, no, you're right, Lindsay. He's trying to look at the blonde. I mean, because it's what you did when you were preteen boy. So,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
But it's interesting because this captures the whole idea of the Monster Squad and the Monster Club captures a thing that I don't think exists anymore,
hmm
where people would gather together and watch scary stuff on TV.
yeah,
I mean, like I was an early adopter. I watched Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater when I was way too young to be watching Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater because I would just be flipping because my grandmother had the movie channel, and I
hmm
would just be watching whatever's on the movie channel. And then here comes, this crazy Texas man, and then he's going to show something like Bucket of Blood or
Um, see, I had
Hollywood.
Elvira, so that was my Mistress of the Dark.
Mm,
So, you know,
Yeah, and then that pushed me towards USA Up All Night, and then Monster
hmm
Vision, and
yep,
then went backwards through to Elvira,
yeah,
because she was still coming up in the 90s. Because I was watching Joe Bob in like 1990.
yeah. This is
Like,
early Joe Bob. Yeah.
yeah, it was the one he did for the movie channel where
Mhm.
he like would show up at the beginning of the movie and do like his little introduction and spiel, and then they would just show the movie, and then he would do it again for another movie. And it was like, just whatever random thing that Showtime had or I keep saying Showtime, it was the movie channel. Get it right.
Mhm.
Thank you, Internet. That the movie channel had the rights to it. He was like, yeah, I want to show, you know, uh, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers or um, Invisible Maniac
hmm
or anything Full Moon Pictures has ever put out.
I was gonna say, right? Yeah, Charles Band's like, just like direct lining all this to him. So
And then that led me directly to Trauma through USA Up All Night because they would do like the
that's
3 movie Toxic Avenger,
yeah.
and that was why I poured over the movie listings every week. So I was like, all right, do I
What's
need to
coming
go to my
on?
do I need to go to my grandmother's house so I could watch people get murdered with a chainsaw, or do I need to stay home and just stay awake till 3 a.m. to watch Toxic Avenger murder people with a mop?
See, I would go to my grandma's to get like all the Hitchcock era, like and Dial In for Murder and all of
Ooh,
that stuff.
yeah,
She was into all those thrillers and those. She likes scary stuff too. I mean, but again, as I told before, my grandmother took me to see Friday the 13th Part Six in a theater, so
nice.
she would indulge the silliness. But I felt like that kind of horror, very much like Monster Squad. Like if you made Monster Squad like a little edgier or whatever, like it lives in the same world Friday the 13th 6 lives in. There's just a little bit more blood in part 6, but there's like no nudity in that movie. There's a bunch of kids in it. It's kind of campy. I mean, all of them are, but pun intended. But I mean, it's more
uh,
on that side. I feel like those two movies are a good double feature if you want to have some fun with it. So
Jay, you perfectly timed that campy pun
I
to
noticed
choke
that. I
me.
was like,
I thought we were gonna get a spit take.
yeah.
Alas.
You got real close. If this laptop wasn't on its last legs, my
Yeah.
2012 laptop wasn't on its last legs, I would probably have spit all over it.
Can we talk about Scary German Man for a minute? Did everybody
Yeah.
have this scary neighbor growing up? Because I did.
Yeah, we did.
hmm
I
Ours
did
was
not, but I lived on the street across from me was a Catholic school,
Mm.
and there were nuns that lived there in the building. So I would
So
get
you grew up
scary
across from
nuns.
the Black Coat's daughters, what you're trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. I would, or Sister Act, but what if they weren't any fun and also scary looking and also a little drunk?
Just a sister act. Wow. No, I think we all knew the scary neighbor. Lindsay, who is your scary neighbor?
Ours was a doctor who actually turned out he was really, really nice, but you never really saw him outside. He also gave out the best candy at Halloween, but for whatever reason, we were all terrified of him. And I think it's because I lived in a pretty young neighborhood, so they were all kids. They like everyone had kids, and his kids had already grown up and kind of aged out of the neighborhood. And so we never really saw him. Otherwise, we were at everybody else's house all the time except for his. So I think it was just really scary. But because he was a doctor, like anytime one of us would get hurt and needed like stitches,
Hmm.
we would just go to their parents would take us to Dr. Dallas's house, and he would like stitch us up. Like
Wow.
the number of
That's
kids who he just stitched up, like in his living room, almost everyone in the neighborhood, I think, at one point.
that.
So
I mean, talk about like a different time when like the neighborhood doctor would just randomly do medical things, you know?
yeah, we broke his window once playing outside. And of course, so our parents were like, you need to go apologize and you need to tell them what happened and who
Mhm.
did it. And so there were three of us, and we all went up and we were like, I don't want to ring the doorbell. You ring the doorbell. And he was totally cool. He was so nice. He was like, it happens. That's what house insurance is for. It's fine.
Oh, that's funny.
It was so sweet. But yeah,
Well,
he was our scary guy.
I mean, that's exactly what happens here when they finally go to the
Yeah.
guy, like, can you interpret the foreign text for us also? And he's like feeding him like tea and crumpets and having some pie.
Pepsi and pie.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like, the scary German guy's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, delicious looking apple pie, by the
That
way.
did look like a good pie, by the way.
Yeah.
It made
It
me
was
want
good.
some.
The thing that struck me on this viewing that I think I've missed every other viewing is that brief shot of after they meet him and he's not scary German guy anymore, although they never give him a name, but that's fine because
Yeah.
nobody in this movie really has a name.
Yeah.
No,
I
just the
mean,
blonde kid,
yeah,
kid with a mullet, Nard's kid,
yeah,
yeah.
blonde kid,
Rudy,
mullet, fat kid.
yeah. Rudy,
Eugene,
cute girl.
Eugene has a name.
Yeah.
Phoebe, the Phoebe has a name,
The feed.
which is very fun.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I've really noticed that he was a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I was thinking, you just don't get those kind of the scary old person who turns out to be really nice and having been through some shit trope isn't a thing you get much anymore.
Mm-mm.
I don't think. I don't see it as much anyway as you used to do in the 80s and 90s. Seems like
No.
that was like a stock character up until
Oh,
like Home Alone 2 with the bird lady.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. In Home
Yeah.
Alone 1, it's one of the stock characters.
Well, yeah, Home
right?
Alone 2.
Yes.
Well, I mean, in every kid's movie seemed to have that up and through.
Mhm.
I mean, even like Goonies, you had Sloth, who wasn't like an old person, but he was just kind of a deformed monster man.
Scary
Yeah.
person. Yeah. There's always
Yeah.
something like, well, it's that thing that, like, again, like you mentioned, Lindsay, like somebody's kind of quiet that doesn't really, you don't see that much and they're mystery,
Yeah.
and when you're a kid, again, I love being a kid of the age that I grew up is the imagination was just, off the chain because you couldn't manifest it on the computer. You couldn't figure it out. You didn't have any examples of it. So you just ran wild with it, and I also think
Mhm.
too, because of the way we accessed media, you usually saw something once and then it might be years before you ever saw it again. So it just had to burn here and whatever you took from it is what went. So you just placed all those tropes on people and it made you go home and look around and go like, where's my scary neighbor? Right. And
Yeah.
you found one.
I like that they don't dwell on the Holocaust survivor bit either. It's
Mm-mm.
a piece of his background that they give to you, and it's really interesting, and it gives his character a lot more depth. But they trust that the audience is either going to get it or they won't, and then they move on. They don't
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
really beat it in, which is nice. I feel like a lot of writers, directors, movies in general don't strike that balance quite right a lot. And this one did. And there was also this is one of the things where when I watch it as I get older, I'm sure I'll notice more and more funny things that resonate more with me as an adult than it did as a younger adult, having seen this, or as it did when I was a kid. And one of the things was when Scary German Guy was out with them, he was like driving them to the center city. And he goes, how about we just go back and have some pie? And I was like, you know what? Here's why that resonates with me. Have you I know, Ron, you have a kid, so this may ring true for you. Jay, I'm sure you have children in your life. For me, whenever I'm in charge of like hanging out with kids, I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, we can go do this. And it always gets to a point where it's like,
Mhm.
how about we go back inside and
Yeah.
do something
Yeah.
that's not this? And
Yeah,
I
no,
feel
all
like
the
that's
yeah.
exactly what was happening. And
When the nieces and nephews were a lot younger, they're all teenagers now, pretty much, so they're too cool for me anymore. But
yeah,
when they were little, it was just like, let's just keep the chaos contained. You
yeah.
know?
Like, sure, I'll play with you. I'll play this fun game that we're playing. And then he's like, I don't think we should be playing this game
We
anymore,
probably
kids.
we
Like, oh,
probably shouldn't be driving down the road shooting arrows at mummies.
yeah.
So no,
Yeah,
I
we
loved his sweet Jeep though, man. That was
That
a
was great.
nice vehicle. That was cool.
yeah, that and the B-17 model in his house
Hmm.
was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Another interesting bit of everybody would assume he's German, so he's going to have like a
Well,
Messerschmitt or something. But no, he's the other side of he's one of the people that Germany mistreated. So of course
mhm.
he's going to pivot hard into that kind of Americanism, which is why I think he was giving them apple pie and
Yes.
why he's driving around in a Willys.
Yes,
Like
exactly. Yeah, I
the
mean,
most American things he could think of in 1948 when he first arrived in this country.
oh, 100%. Like, yeah, with that guy, like he is as pro US as anybody because he lived through the worst part of his own personal history.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about him is he's the only effective adult in the entire movie.
That's
I
a
mean,
fair point.
adults in 80s movies kind of suck anyway for the most part, or they're just not there. But like there's always that one though that like is still kind of on the fringe, like the janitor in Breakfast Club is the kind of
Hmm.
accessible adult, like I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that comes from that. There's always that one accessible adult that you can trust or that the kids will trust. Doc Brown and Back to the Future, for goodness sakes, is the accessible adult. Like there, I think that's an 80s trope that has gone away now. I don't know that that exists anymore in modern cinema, but yeah, the accessible adult. Well, heck, I'm sitting here looking at Ron and I'm thinking Hagrid in, Harry Potter. I mean, it's the same.
Yeah, I mean it's still around. I mean, I'm blanking on his name, but the guy in the the most recent season of Stranger Things who speaks Russian. He's kind of the weird conspiracy guy.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So
He's
yeah.
like
Mhm.
the accessible adult. I mean, these are like 20-year-olds that are going to see him, but that's still kind of like an
Yeah,
accessible
that's
adult.
because this kid. Yeah, they've drugged their feet on that show forever. So I mean,
That's because all the kids are in their 30s now.
they really are. Yeah, I think some of them have like retirement funds and mortgages, and
They're all like renting cars and shit. Yeah.
there's a couple of them on their like second marriage. So which,
Yeah.
they've waited a long time to do that show.
I think Millie Bobby Brown is actually already retired.
You're
He,
right. Yeah,
he lives on a
Probably.
farm in Georgia.
yeah, somewhere.
she she went to a farm upstate. Oh wait, no. Uh, yeah, it's really interesting that kind of like trusted adult figure there
Mhm.
that is such a what has always been such a staple thing of like children's media. And that's one of
Mhm.
the things what makes me think this was kind of skewed for a slightly younger audience, but ended up getting saddled with the PG-13 that they might not have wanted,
hmm
Yeah,
even after they cut like 13 minutes out of the movie to get it to where it is now.
yeah, which I can't imagine. Like, what in the other than the language? What about this is on par with friggin' Red Dawn, which is the original PG-13 movie, which is a hard R movie.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, nowadays in particular, how did this? It's got to be that the kids are cursing. Oh my gosh,
I mean, it's got to be. It's probably the kids are cursing. They're peeking in windows.
The first scene is
The first scene is
really
pretty scary, and the
yeah.
scene in the end where Rudy is facing off against the vampiric brides is also pretty scary.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, you say that, but like that's pretty tame, man.
Well,
Like,
she gets staked in the chest and blood comes out of her mouth.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they could have, again, that's like you said, Ron, at this point, we'd seen so many beheadings on a Friday the 13th movie and stuff. Like, that's fairly tame compared to that.
Also, I feel like this is early enough in the time of PG-13 that they didn't really know what they wanted to do with that rating.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
So,
true.
so
Yeah.
it just kind of did you get the right jury or didn't you get the right jury at the MPAA?
Now that you're saying that, like, I don't pay attention to ratings anymore because I'm just old and don't care. But like, I don't remember the last thing I saw that was PG-13. Like, I specifically wonder, like, oh, why is that PG-13? I remember like all the horror remakes that got labeled with that, and I thought, oh, they're going to suck now because of that. But it doesn't seem like it's a thing as much anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember the
Well,
last time I saw a rating on
that's
something.
because
Also, yeah.
if it comes out in a movie theater, it's probably PG-13.
Yeah, good point.
And a
Mm,
lot of that is just the omnipresent urge to claw in as much box office as possible by making
Hmm.
your movie as accessible as possible. That's why you
Yeah,
got all that spate of PG-13 horror movies.
mm.
That's why,
yeah,
they'll throw in one curse word in Transformers to keep it from being a G-rated movie. That's
right.
why not the Michael Bay Transformers, but the most recent cartoon version. They threw in some language to it wouldn't be a G. Because if it's
Yeah.
a G, it's a kids movie. If it's
Hmm.
PG or
Yeah.
PG-13, it's gonna appeal from the eight
Yeah.
to
That
18.
makes sense. That
I
makes
say
sense.
all that, and I'm sitting here thinking like every Marvel movie is PG-13. The new Superman movie was
But they
PG-13.
just don't
And
have to announce it. They
yeah.
don't and it doesn't make it it doesn't really matter anymore because nobody's putting out R-rated things
No,
except
because
for
all
the
that's going on,
occasional.
that's all going on television or going to streaming or something like
Yeah, that's
that.
going straight to
Mm.
Tubi.
Yes. Once again,
Yeah,
shout out to
Tubi.
TV. Um, I didn't watch this on Tubi. I actually own this. I bought this a couple of years ago when we were talking about doing it, and it's just sat in my Voodoo library waiting for me to access it. So,
I own this on either on disc. It's either DVD or Blu-ray. I can't remember, um, but it was this was so it like disappeared for a while and then came back around. It wasn't put on DVD. It wasn't going to
hmm,
be until people like wrote letters.
demanded it.
It was like a
Yes.
letter writing campaign to get this movie on DVD.
That's awesome. Because that's wild to think about. Because it takes like the cost of printing DVDs is so cheap to the
Yeah.
manufacturer. Like it costs more for the paper on the sleeve than it
Well, it
does to
was such
print
a
the disc.
massive flop that it was no one
Hmm.
ever anticipated. And then they did all of these like Alamo anniversary
Hmm.
things. And I miss living close to an Alamo. I'm just
Mm.
gonna say that right now, Alamo, if you're probably not listening, but make more.
But you should be. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, Alamo
Come
Draft House
on.
sponsor the podcast and also build one near
In New
myself
Jersey.
and
Lindsay, yes,
Lindsay
Yes. Yeah.
because I
And
don't have
somewhere.
one either.
Uh,
yeah.
Jay
the
Yeah.
probably has one in Charlotte.
No, the Alamo like adjacent thing we had didn't last long here. No, we're
Oh,
we're
bummer.
we're overrun with either like super indie theater or like megaplex down
I
here. But
miss
that
like
we do
I
have
miss
one
a good
downtown
indie
that's doing
theater.
like anniversary runs of things. It did Jaws, it did like Raiders of the Lost Ark, that kind of stuff. But
But
it's in the
but it,
middle of Uptown, so you have to like bother with that to get to it.
but is it like are they just doing Fathom events or are they doing actual rep screenings?
Yeah, it's Fathom event stuff. So
Thumbs down.
it's not anything like this is also the theater that's going to host like Richard Marx and um Jackson Brown maybe, I don't know, on stage together, $300 a ticket, whatever. So
Cool.
yeah,
Well,
so
you know what, Jay? You'll be right there waiting for you.
I
I will not
I
be. I can assure both of you.
was looking for the right there waiting joke, Ron, and
I love that song
you did me proud.
unashamedly. I love Richard Marx songs, but I ain't paying that to go watch him play him
Not
acoustic. So,
$300 worth. That's
no.
insane.
If it's the full band in the Bank of America Stadium, I might think about it. But
Well, I
oh,
don't know if
Metallica was
you're
only $100 for that. So
I don't know if you're in a room with you and like 50 people and you're like close enough that if Jackson Brown sneezes, it's going to get on you. That might be
yeah.
pretty cool,
No,
but
I
not
don't need Jackson
$300
Brown's
worth.
COVID. No, ain't worth it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. So I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm gonna go see the Traveling Wicked instead coming through town. So,
Oh,
Perfect.
nice.
that'll be more fun anyway. So because I love that show and love that whole musical. But yeah.
But yeah, as we talk about this movie, we talk about how it's kind of become like a cult classic, right?
Hmm.
And like it had that sustained fan put this out on Blu-ray, DVD, or else kind of
Hmm.
response that you see with a lot of Fred Dekker movies. Like that was
Yes.
the thing with Night of the Creeps for years. It was not available
Mhm.
outside of VHS
I just lived
because
on
it was
HBO and stuff. Yeah.
because
So.
it didn't even really live on HBO. It was just kind of like gone. It was like had gone out of the zeitgeist, and then people rediscovered it
Hmm.
because of like VHS digging. And I think that's all kind of what happened to this movie too. Is like people were like, "Well, we're kind of Gooniesed out, but what else do we got?" And like, oh, do you remember this movie from, 87 that has all these cool things and it's the Universal monsters and, blah, blah, blah. Shane Black and Fred Dekker. We like those guys. And they kind of rode that uh, Shane Shane Black and specifically his work with Fred Dekker kind of rode the Shane Black resurgence in the 90s, in the late 90s, early 2000s to like back to market basically.
Yeah, Ron, you're onto something with like this whole like nostalgia media resurrection of things. There's this Swedish rock band called Treat that don't ask me how I know them. I had a friend, we did a lot of tape trading when I was in 8th and through 9th grade, but I knew who they were. They have inundated the only social media I still have is Facebook, and it's because of this podcast, so I can manage the page. But they have inundated my like reels, like promoted reels thing in the last month. They put out a new record. They retired years ago, then they like got resurrected, and they said it's because people like American kids started finding their old vinyl and just playing it and playing it on classics. And so they got back together, went on tour for a few years, decided let's do a new record, and they put out a song, and you know what? It sounds just like it's 1987 again, and it's awesome. And I'm sitting there listening to this, going like, these dudes are all 60 and they are rocking the hell out, and it's awesome. And I was like, how did this happen? And I dug into it, and it was like, because people just demanded it. And I love that though. That like I feel like if that power in the consumer had existed when we were kids, what would we have resurrected? And maybe we did. Maybe that was why all the stuff was on television that it was, because we constantly. I mean, the Andy Griffith Show had been off television for 20 years by the time I was a kid, and it was a staple in my household growing up because my parents watched it, but I watched it too. And so I feel like each generation has something that they just grasp a hold of and bring back from the depths. And I'm glad Fred Dekker movies are part of that.
Yeah, I feel like that is the thing that our generation brought back from the dead was like those 80s movies, right? Because everybody's obsessed with 80s movies if you're in our current demographic. And then even the kids these days like are getting into like and a lot of it is thanks to like the Yacht Rock web series that brought back all those like Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald, Kenny Loggins, those type of dudes. And then
if I hear "I'm on one more time," I'm going to throw your head through the window, Paula, or whatever that great Paul Rudd rant and 40-year-old version is.
Yeah. But it's funny because that like you were describing, Jay, that comes from people who were diving into dollar record bins.
Yeah.
And now a lot of these records are worth, $50, $100 a piece that were discards at one point.
Yeah, we can ask our Brian about that. He's the big vinyl collector.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I don't know what would have been. Do you think that one of the reasons they have the Universal monsters in this movie is because that was, Shane Black and Fred Dekker's attempt to bring back something in from their childhood?
I think that's exactly it. I think that's Shane Black and Fred Dekker, and every way you look at all of Fred Dekker's work, it's laced through it. Everything is a callback to those 50s and early 60s things. I mean, hell, Night of the Creeps is the setup of it is basically like The Blob or something like that, or a Twilight Zone, and Shane Black he's from the same generation. That's what he grew up on, that stuff. So, I mean, when you think about it, like when they did the It remake, right? The most approachable part of that was the first one, right? Because the kids in the 80s reminded all the adults of what it was like growing up in the 80s. I mean, when Stephen King wrote it, he was writing about kids that grew up in the 50s, right? In the early 60s. And people responded to that book as adults because they grew up in that time. And I feel like that's the part that sells it. Nostalgia has always sold, and it always will. It's when you mix nostalgia with like a good mystery that you have to balance that right. Lindsey, you were talking about how this movie doesn't spend so much time on his lore making that it just gets lost in it. I'll tell you who does, and it ruins every movie, and also the books are worse. Dan Brown. It sucks at this. All right.
I have like 4 Dan Brown books. Right?
You know what I mean then, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's pages of lore and then just nonsense
yeah.
without getting anywhere. And then poor Ron Howard trying to adapt that nonsense with Tom Hanks. And I mean, you're just I'm watching Angels and Demons recently because I'm home and I'm bored or whatever and it was on, and I'm sitting there watching this going like, how the hell did we get here? Like, how did this happen again? Like that movie's insane. But I feel like this is the kind of thing that sort of gave birth to that, and
Mhm.
gave birth to the Grisham, Turner pages and all that, Scott Turow,
Mhm.
all that stuff. That in the right piece, it works. In the wrong place, it's always too much. Like you explain too much, you spend too much time digging in the dirt, like the Raiders of the Lost Ark is the best of the Indiana Jones movies, and I'll hear no argument otherwise, because it doesn't waste a lot of your time getting you from piece to piece to piece. There's the one big exposition dump in the classroom with with Porkins and whoever else on the wall, right? And Denholm Elliott, and they're talking about the Ark of the Covenant. And when you grew up when I did, you know that story because you heard it with felt apostles on the wall 100 times in Vacation Bible School. And so it made it fun, and that music made it fun, and you just moved to the next thing. This movie does the same stuff. It's just this fun adventure that moves the same thing without getting stuck in its own mud.
Mhm.
Yeah, this movie is only like an hour and 22 minutes ish, and
Mhm.
it flies. Like
Yeah.
they waste it does it doesn't really matter why Dracula wants to take over the world. They
He wants
just
to take
like,
over the world. Yeah,
here's
it's
your
like,
MacGuffin.
Yep.
Who gives a shit? Let's kick the
yes.
Wolfman in the nards.
Yeah.
Let's
Look,
let's shoot Gilman with a shotgun.
the soundtrack album is an hour long. It's only 20 minutes shorter than the movie.
I've definitely said Wolfman's got nards. It must be no short of hundreds of times because when that line was said in the movie, my Brian looked at me and goes, "Oh, it's your favorite line."
I heard you say it too. I know what he's talking about. It's
I was like,
I also
yeah.
kind of feel like that line and the thought of monsters having genitals
Mhm.
has kind of influenced an entire generation of people who read like insane romance novels.
Oh, I'm almost done with book 3 of one right now.
Uh-oh. Well, we'll have to get what that is, Lindsay, off mic unless you want to promote it, which you might probably don't
I
considering
don't know. It's a
the whole
Sarah J.
setup.
Moss book. A bunch of people have read them. It's not, you know.
I don't.
I'm not familiar with Sarah J. Moss's work.
Yeah, they're sexy fairy books. That's what I call them.
It's part of that's a new movement, by the way, the sexy
It's
fairy situation.
definitely a movement. I'll
I
say
got
that.
into that whole like fourth wing thing for a little bit. Ooh, you talk about getting lost in the lore. Woo. So-
That's what we're calling it now, the lore.
Well, I found on the internet.
Hashtag the lore.
I found on the Internet Archive like 190 books of uh, adult oriented action adventure pulp books. You ever learn like The Executioner or Mac Bolan, all those books
Yes,
that
yeah,
every
always the
dad
best,
had?
like that big 44 auto mag. Yes.
Yeah, and then I found a stockpile of like 197 of oh the Wasteland books, which is like the post-apocalyptic version of that like book, except it's not a 44 automatic. It's got some crazy like caseless stare rifle, which is the kind of thing that would have cost you $1 million to shoot these days, and he's just finding caseless ammo everywhere he goes, which makes
Like a
absolutely no
video
sense.
game, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so I've read like 30 of those, and that's just what I've been reading lately.
Amazing.
But
That's
and
perfect.
every book is like
So
the
much
same.
writing.
They come
Mhm.
through this like crazy wormhole thing, this weird project. They come to a new place. They shoot some weirdos. They get involved in something with a town or a local baron or a local leader. They end up shooting another monster. They kill the baron and then they leave. And it's just the same thing over and over again with lots of exploding heads and, graphic depictions of like people with deformities and radiation burns and stuff. So it's a lot of fun, but also a lot of fun since Dan Brown was mentioned, and I derail this podcast all the time. And since we're doing a video,
It can't be edited out.
you guys just got to suck it
Y'all act
up.
like it's a bad thing we're not editing this. You have no idea what a relief that is.
Y'all
I
are
just want to
strapped in for 2-hour show.
Yeah, I just want to recommend the 372 Pages podcast. It's Mike Nelson from Riff Tracks and Mr. Sense Theater 3000,
Oh
and
man.
and Connor Lostoka, who's one of the writers for Riff Tracks, and it's a bad book podcast, and they've done 2 Dan Brown books. So the talk of Dan Brown made me think of
Subscribing now.
because right now they're doing the current series is they're doing Deception Point by Dan Brown, which is like the book he put out before Angels and Demons made him very popular. And they also did Digital Fortress, one of his very, very early books.
Oh man.
And they have so much fun with Dan Brown and also like lots of other insane things. Like they do The Mister, the follow-up for E.L. James, the 50 Shades of Grey lady.
Oh
Her
wow.
follow-up, The Mister, they talk about that. And there's a scene in The Mister where somebody poops in a bucket, and they just have the most fun with that poop bucket. And it's a running joke for the podcast is that somebody's going to have to go get a bucket for character X. And they also do like the straight to book sequel to Willow.
What?
It's a yeah, apparently there was a sequel to Willow. They do the Tech War book that William Shatner wrote. It's they did the Bob Honey book that Sean Penn wrote. That's absolutely the most insane garbage that you'll ever read.
I knew the Shat wrote books. I didn't know he wrote that kind of book.
It's like Future Drugs and Future Noir. And it has one of the greatest
Everything comes back to RoboCop 2 with you, I swear. So-
yeah, and it has one of the greatest lines, one of the greatest like sentence enders that you'll ever read, like a sentence descriptor. You know how they'll say like blah 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 said so and so.
Mhm.
Well, that said part, it is said the robot pimp disdainfully. And tell me that that's not the greatest. Put that in
Said
front of,
the robot disdainful.
yeah, put that in front of anything Jesus says in the New Testament, and it's automatically the funniest thing you've ever heard in your life. Like, suffer the little children to come unto me, said the robot pimp disdainfully.
See, kids, you come to hear about the movie, but you stay to get lost in the lore. So
I'm not sorry.
no apologies.
If they've been
necessary.
listening to this podcast, they know what they're getting.
I mean, yeah, you know what you got at this point. They just get to watch us do it. So.
And if this is your first time, then this is pretty much how they all go.
Yeah, we have 400 plus episodes to show you.
If this is your first time, why?
So how?
Yeah.
The algorithm is not friendly. So
Hey, you know, maybe they'll love this. Maybe we can clip out something and make a YouTube short.
do either of you know how to edit video? I don't. So,
Well, I do, but I can't do it on my going on 20-year-old laptop here.
Do you need to feed the mouse that's currently keeping that thing alive? So on the wheel.
Oh, that mouse has died a long time ago. It's rubber bands all the way down.
Fair. Hey, you modernized it then. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the hand crank burned out, so
I'm just gonna
my
let
God.
that go. I had to place it.
Where even were we talking?
Well,
about
we
that?
were just talking about movies and lore, but I do have a way back in.
Okay.
I'll mention because I was talking about the soundtrack wasn't that long. Bruce Broughton, who does the soundtrack on this and really did the score for it. It's a better score than this movie deserves. And I like this movie. I want to be clear. But like this is a very classy kind of score. And you don't every now and then you get one of those still these days, but I feel like this is a prime example of like where the score just outsells the movie in some places. It's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I also really like that montage song when they're, and I don't know what it is. It's like,
I remember we said, yeah.
But it's really catchy, and I was trying to look it up really quick, but Rock Until You Drop.
Mhm.
That's how it goes. But it was just so like, I love 80s movies do it better than any other movie. They do a montage better than any other decade.
Look,
I feel like I'll die on that hill.
Look, Karate Kids, you're the best around. any of the Rocky movies with the Gonna Fly Now, or even the Eye of the Tiger and the later ones and stuff like that, and all the cool Survivor songs in Rocky Four that we talked about, Ron. Like, no, I love an '80s montage. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, can't beat it.
Yeah, and it's a great montage. It really is effective.
Mhm.
It's probably my second favorite like group of kids getting ready to kill some monsters montage after the
Mhm.
one from Lost Boys.
Oh, now
Yeah,
that's a killer
that was it.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's solely on the strength of that soundtrack. And we have to one of the things I think we need to bring up is the fact that there was a lot of tension on this set between Fred Decker and the producers, Peter Hyams,
Mm-hmm.
who is a very classic filmmaker who loves like master shots and stuff. And Fred Decker was completely self-taught. I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know if he went to film school. I think he just learned how to shoot shit and jumped on it. And so they had a lot of clashes that the other producers had to step in and get sorted out. But my favorite scene in the movie is the part where the werewolf transforms into the phone booth, and then the phone booth explodes, and the werewolf comes running out.
Yes.
So that was like
Yep.
Peter Hyams shot that. He did the second unit directing for this movie. So
Holy cow.
either or he did some of the second unit. So he was either so concerned about the final product, he was like, no, I need to step into this, or they had won him over to the point where he was like, okay, yeah, I'll come help out. And I think it's probably the former, but I'd like to think that it's the latter because of what Peter's son John Hyams does with
Mm-hmm.
amazing, interesting filmmaking.
I did not know that he was the one that had shot this. I knew he was one of the producers, but
Well,
that's
he didn't shoot everything, but he shot
yeah.
that scene in particular, and he did a lot of the other second unit stuff.
I mean,
Um,
what's funny is Peter Hyams like being on a high horse, and you look at his filmography, and you're like, bruh, like sit down. This is the man that brought us the Presidio, which
oh
has
yeah,
a very strange setup to it, and then like the Relic, which I personally like as a B movie, but it's a better book that the example of a better page turner than but it gave us like Arnold Schwarzenegger versus friggin' Satan in End of Days. I mean, that's what this man gave us.
That's a great movie too. I do like
That's
that movie. End of
that
Days.
I have a very strange relationship with the soundtrack in that movie. It evolved when I worked at a newspaper, and we'll just save it for if we ever review that here.
Fair.
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Stay tuned because I feel like that needs a rewatch.
that probably does deserve a review. It's been a long time since I watched that one. So, but I liked Robin Tunney back in those days because I mean, I saw The Craft. Who didn't? So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, but we've kind of talked about what holds up, and is there anything that doesn't really hold up for you guys on this watching as an adult?
I mean, no,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I think
not.
it
I
hangs
think
real tight.
it
yeah.
does, and I think this is one of the beautiful things too about like using practical effects versus CGI or any kind of digital effect is that practical effects do tend to stand the test of time
Mm,
better
Hmm.
because they're made to look good in person.
Yeah.
So it it just it all looks good. I mean, obviously, I love this movie anyway, but I mean, there are some things that are problematic. You couldn't reshoot this movie. You couldn't remake this movie in exactly the same way now. It
no.
wouldn't be allowed. But I mean, there are certain things that wouldn't, language
Mhm.
notwithstanding. But there's it's it's just I don't know. It's really special. It all still works for me.
I think you hit on it,
I
Ron,
think.
is that the fact that it's so quick. It's
Yeah.
80 minutes. I mean, it flies. So it doesn't, there's nothing lingering long enough to leave a bad taste.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes down easy. It's like, well, I mean, I'll just go back to what I said in the original. We had the board game, and one of the reasons we like to play it is it didn't take real long to play. It wasn't like
Nice.
Monopoly where you're like digging in for hours, like you can blow through
Mhm.
this in 20 minutes and then you move on to the next thing, and that was the fun part of it.
Yeah, and the movie flies, and I think there's something to be said for the magic of just really good editing,
Mm,
and this movie is really well put together,
Yeah.
yeah.
and it flows so well. There's enough. The practical effects look amazing, and when the few times that they don't, it's so charming that it's easy to overlook it. So I feel like there's a reason people wanted this movie brought back from the Betamax dead,
Mhm.
and one of
Yeah.
the reasons why it's kind of stuck around in the zeitgeist of, that by all rights it should have just like become like an afterthought, like The Gate or something,
Right.
but it's kind of stuck around in a way that other movies from that time period haven't.
Yeah.
Couldn't say it better myself. Um,
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we've said just about everything there is to say, which means it's time for final thoughts, recommendations, and popcorn ratings, gentlemen. Ron, why don't we kick it off with you? What's your popcorn rating for this one?
You would think that coming to this movie as an adult would kind of dampen the impact. And maybe if I'd seen it more when I was a kid, it would be like my favorite movie ever. That said, just having come to it as an adult, it's still really friggin' good. It is a lot of fun. It is not nearly as annoying as the kids in Goonies are. Um, the dialogue is sharp. It sounds natural. Shane Black's got an ear for how people talk, and that's an underrated skill for any writer, but especially somebody who writes movies that are kind of verbose like he does. Because the people talk, but it doesn't sound unnatural. It's not like kind of that stylized Tarantino thing where people speak in paragraphs.
Kevin Williamson. Yeah.
Yeah,
On
it's not
Dawson's
Kevin Williamson.
Creek. Yeah.
But no, it's great. Good performances, super cool special effects. Tom Noonan is super underrated. We didn't talk about him nearly enough in this podcast.
Oh, he rules.
And
Yeah.
and we did talk about him in Frankenstein's Monster, which is probably one of the better Frankenstein performances you're going to see, in the sense that of the character being both monstrous but also super vulnerable, and you know just kind of wanting a friend. It's really awesome work. Duncan Rieger is a great Dracula. I remember at some point Wizard World magazine did a thing about monsters, and they said he was like the definitive modern Dracula, which is probably kind of a stretch, but also it was in the mid 90s, so like what else you got to compare it to, right? uh,
Hmm.
that, because I think it's pre Gary Oldman's Dracula. So uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a blast. Had a great time chopping it up with you guys. But I'm going to give this one a large popcorn. Definitely worth seeing if you haven't seen it in a while. And if you've never seen it, why did you listen to this in the first place?
Now they have all the info. They don't have to. You should still go watch it though.
You should
Yeah.
totally go watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jay, what about you? What's your popcorn rating?
I mean, the funny thing is coming into this, you're the super fan of this, but I've had the longest history with this movie of anybody here. And I've never not had fun when I've watched it or I thought about it, and I bought it, like I said, 2 years ago on Fandango at home or whatever, knowing we would do it eventually one day, but mostly because I was like, "Oh, I want that. And I'm sort of into the digital library stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I want that. I want to be able to watch it. And I've watched it a few times, and it's just a fun trip. I put it on the same level as something like Back to the Future, which is a better movie. Don't get me wrong, in almost every respect. But I put it on the same level of something like that because every time I watch it, I just go back to a place that was so much simpler, and it was just so much fun. And not even as a kid, but just watching things that just made you feel like I don't have to think about the geopolitical ramifications of this movie or any societal impact that it's going to have, or did these people buy the right kind of cereal today? I don't need to know any of that. I'm just watching this for what it is, and I just let it roll over me. And I get a little bit of scare if I want that. I get a little bit of nostalgia when I want that. I get a lot of good humor, and I get good music, good effects, all those things. And it just wraps up so well. And again, it goes down so easy. So super large popcorn, for me, lots of butter, warm, moist in all the right places, crunchy where it needs to be, just enough salty, to keep it interesting. That's the Monster Squad.
I think super large is a new size.
It's I mean large and like it's
I
an
know.
incredible large. Yeah, there we go. But yeah,
I know.
not
You go,
super extra. Yeah.
before you go, Lindsay, I recently have made the transition to air popping popcorn,
Ooh.
and I
Oh,
use
yes.
ghee instead of butter. So I melt ghee and drizzle it over the popcorn. But here's the thing that takes it up to the maximum notch. So I finally succumbed and bought Flavacol.
Oh,
Flavacol is the salt type product that they use on movie theater popcorn that gives it the distinctive taste.
yes.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've known
I've
this for moons. Yes,
I've never heard of Flavacol.
it is the way.
It is the way. Yeah. And
Huh. It,
Holly talked it up for forever before I finally remembered, oh, I should just do
Oh,
this because I want some popcorn.
all right. So
And
you just talking about
okay.
memories. Watching this at home with my parents. My mother had an air popper. Would air pop popcorn. It went into this very specific green piece of Tupperware that she knew how to mix just the right amount of salt, butter, and all the other fun stuff. But she had some Flavacol and would put it on there, and we would shake it up, and we would all just kind of munch it out of that Tupperware. Oh man, I'm just going down memory lane. Anyway.
Like
Uh,
Tupperware brand Tupperware.
Yes, like
I'm
real,
sure.
like you had
Like
to burp
had
it
the
Tupperware.
had
Yeah.
the Tupperware parties
very
Tupperware.
nice.
Yes. And it was
Oh
that
yeah.
lime green and that used to be opaque white top, but it had her name on it. It was, oh yeah. Yeah. Good
Nice.
Flavacol.
stuff.
I've definitely seen this in my mother-in-law's pantry.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know. I will have to give that a try. All right.
Sorry, Lindsay. What are your thoughts? I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll pitch to you so you don't have to
Now I
awkwardly
don't
pitch to
even
yourself.
know what toppings to put on my popcorn. I'm gonna give this a super large popcorn.
Mm.
Mhm.
um, it this movie, I said it at the very beginning. I wish I had seen this when I was younger. I don't know if it would have resonated with me in the same way if I had. So I'm glad that I saw it when I did. I immediately, took to it when I could, and I've watched it every year since. It's been part of my October spooky season viewing Rolodex, or I don't know what else we want to call it. Let's pick something a little more modern, but this is an 80s movie. It's fine, it fits. And I don't know, it's like a warm and cozy kind of scary movie, and it just hits in all the right places, and the dialogue is so smart and so fun, and the actors are so smart and so fun, and there's just really nothing about this movie that I think I would ever really want to change. And I'm glad that this letter writing campaign worked, and that we have it now, and that it's not only available on DVD and Blu-ray, but it's available for streaming on many different platforms, which is great. And I don't know, it's just a beautiful little nugget for October that I enjoy every year, sometimes multiple times. So I will give this, as Jay put it, a super large popcorn. And I haven't had Flavacol, so I'm not gonna dip my toe into that yet. But I will definitely
You got to do
put
that. Yeah.
extra
Yeah.
butter and salt on it. Maybe a little like Salt Bay sea salt or
Oh,
something,
Oh.
nice.
like the big crystals.
Yeah, the Malden.
The fat
Mhm.
salt, yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I would absolutely, it deserves every bit of that, and I will continue to watch it yearly, for as long as I am able. And I highly recommend other people add this to their yearly watch, or at least just watch it once. Again, if you're listening to this, you've hopefully already seen it. But
True.
if you haven't, go give it a listen. And if you have seen it, definitely go check out that Wolfman Scott Nards documentary. It was really, really fun to watch. So I would also recommend that.
Yeah, I'm game for that, and knowing it exists now. I didn't know about that. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna fire that one up because
Yeah.
that sounds right down my alley.
Yeah, it's an easy watch. It's super interesting. It's got a lot of fun tidbits in it and a lot of good interviews. So highly recommend that. But with that, this long in-person video that Jay does not have to edit is coming to an end. So
well, like Jay is not going to edit. Let's just be real.
he's not going to edit. He doesn't have to. We were perfect. Enjoy us.
Yeah.
And if you loved this so much that you want to go listen to other stuff or follow us, you can find and follow us on social media at FilmstripPod. We share announcements about upcoming shows as well as other fun content. And don't forget to subscribe and share the show. Bonus points if you leave us a positive review. It does help other people find our podcast, and it makes us feel really good about ourselves. But until next time, thank you for listening and or watching Filmstrip.
Yeah, and go thumbs up us on YouTube and stuff. Like that really will help. We've had a really good response from the YouTube channel, which is one of the reasons why we're experimenting with fun things like this.
Yeah.
Fun for us. I don't care if you had fun or not, but give it a thumbs up anyway.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun. And more fun stuff coming for Shocktober too, y'all. We're going to tease it out. We've got a couple of guests lined up and some things that we've talked about for a while. So we're kind of checking off the list this year on Filmstrip.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for listening to Filmstrip. You can find more episodes on our website, filmstrippodcast.com. The Filmstrip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.